My struggle is with the real world, things that are happening in the real world. I tend to disconnect and I start to daydream and even talk to myself. And those are just some things that I tend to do. I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I had an older brother who was deaf, and he used to wear those old hearing aids, you know, where it has there was like a box connected to your chest, and then you had cords connected to that, and you put them in your ears and you could hear. Well, I remember looking at my brother, and he would tend to pull out the hearing aids out of his ears, and he would swing them at me like nunchucks. So one time he was whipping them at me, and I went into a daydream, and I started to imagine a deaf ninja. And I imagined it was night, and it was dark, and the moon was shining through the clouds. And the smog began to rise, and appeared the deaf ninja, dressed in black. And he had his hearing aid in, and he squinted his eyes, and he looked over to the side, and it began to rain. And he could see just a single raindrop. And he looked the other way, and he turned, and he saw an army of enemies that were soon to attack. And they had wood swords, and they had knives, and they would whip them around. And the deaf ninja saw them approaching. So he pulled out his hearing aids out of his ears, and he jumped up into the air, and he began to scissor kick all the way around, and punch and kick, and completely wiped out the enemy. And as he was turning, a knife hit one of the enemy's heads, and blood began to splat from his face. And the deaf ninja, he came back to the ground, and he squinted, and he looked over again, and he saw that single raindrop, and it hit the ground, and it splattered. And he said, I can't hear it. I can't hear. And at that moment, I came back to reality, and I saw my brother with that box hearing aid, and he's telling me, I can't hear. And I just stared at him.